Bills fans, what's up? It's been forever and a day. I think dating back to around the draft, and there's been a handful of times I thought about doing videos since then, but it seems like every time I said, "Hey, I'm gonna do a video," it was one of the trades went down, or the double trade went down, or something happened within the organization. Nothing, just the Watkins trade. And we all know the Watkins trade, the Darby the double trade day, uh, the Ragland, Cardell Jones. It just seemed like anybody. The overriding theme of the off season was McDermott, later to come Brandon Beane, washing the Bills' hands and their hands of anything and everything to do with prior regimes, prior arrangements, whatever the case may be within the building, whether it was in the hierarchy within the front office or the way that everything worked, or on the roster in the locker room itself. Just everything from mixing and matching lockers positionally to different, whatever, everything. And here we were, opening day yesterday for the, you know, grand unveiling of the Sean McDermott Buffalo Bills. Don't want to say Brandon Beane just yet because I think the two will work in concert. I honestly think that these two are mature enough to mesh, and I don't think Beane would have come if he felt like he wouldn't have had at least a little bit of say in everything that was gonna, or at least a piece, let's just say, in everything. And I mean that by, like, he's gonna have a say in everything. Like, they'll take his word. I don't, obviously the owner always has the final say, but I think McDermott will have a, the next biggest piece, and then Beane. But yeah, and then it was them working in concert to do this, to finally get us to where we were yesterday. And it was, I mean, it's a hard barometer because it's the New York Jets. But, if they would have went out and lost to the Jets, it would have been one of these, moments of, what could you have labeled it as? This, it would have been something that would have been viewed as one of the worst losses, I guess, in a slew of worse losses, just given the Jets' lack of standing coming into the game and continued lack of standing after the game. They would have been viewed as, oh, is it really this bad? Because if it's really this bad, um, man, it's a lot more of a heavy lift than what we thought it was going to be. But, I said this back in 14 after Marone quit, that the organization needed to purge itself of all these ills and all these rogue elements, and I got a lot of flack for it. And trade this guy, trade that guy. You don't want to let Whaley do this or build a roster. And those Bills teams were built on a house of cards. And that house of cards came down like that. Anytime the pressure turned up, fold. Anytime there was a moment in a game, something had to be done, fold. This offseason, fold. And you still have one of the holdovers from that regime, getting himself back, self sent back on a flight from a preseason game. Highest paid player on the roster. How does that resonate within the locker room? How has it resonated within the locker room in the last few years, where you get vets, that try to do the right thing and want to do the right thing, continuously ask questions about Marcel Darius, and he seems, I'll be honest with you, he seems like a player who's mentally checked out. He got his big payday, and he's just kind of, I'm good, I'm good, I got my money, I'm good. That's just seems like a very, passe attitude. I'm sorry, I'm not talking about the game much yesterday, but it, I bring it up because that horrible showing that he had at that or that press conference or media scrum or whatever you want to call it that the organization made him do the day after he got sent home from the Baltimore preseason game. It that was my moment of I'm honestly truly done with this guy after all the crap, the drag racing, the suspensions, the late for meeting, just slew hundreds of infractions within the building. Most haven't seen the light of day, that were internal, but that was just his passe, ho hum attitude. Bills do very well. But I was like, I'm done with this guy. They could get him off the roster. I'm I'm not asked about it. I'm just let's move on here. This guy is just complete. He's a complete wash. But yeah, back to the game. It was, I want to say it was a McDermott victory from the standpoint of, I think for this team, this current Bills team, and it's kind of been the way the Bills teams have been constructed in the past, and it was one of the big mistakes that they made. I feel they constantly tried to just come back as a better version of what they were, as opposed to just being completely different. We're going to play better defense. We're going to run the football better. We're going to commit less turnovers. The less penalties, that type of thing. And I know he preaches that stuff, but some things did come from fruition yesterday. Again, hard barometer, Jets, safeties making plays on the ball. Safety being the best defensive player on the field, Jordan Poyer. I thought he was the best defensive player on the field. And the rookie cornerback, Tre'Davious White, was no slouch out there. He seemed like a vet. I was not worried. I mean, granted, again, it's the Jets. They're their perimeter players on offense are nothing to write home about. But there was some good plays that he made. I would have liked to have seen him come away with that one potential interception. Great play on the fade pass in the end zone, but he made some good plays. I know EJ Gaines went off a little bit of a stinger late in the game shoulder, but he looked good. Micah Hyde sealed the game with an INT. The defense was making plays. The linebackers were flying around, and it was one of the groups that everybody had a lot of worries about. Especially they cut Gerald Hodges, who everybody thought was a shoo-in. You kind of jettisoned Reggie Ragland, who was never played a regular season game in Bills uniform for a second-round pick. That's wow. Cyrus Kouandjio cut, just things that they just really they just really gutted that Whaley, Rex, or whoever else Marone ties in terms of the roster. But back to the game, defensive line, Jets were getting the ball out quick. I don't really think there was some opportunities I felt like they could have gotten to McCown, but he was getting the ball out quick, and even there was other plays he was running for his life. I was surprised he made it the game healthy because he tends to get hurt pretty frequently. He's definitely not a guy who's built. I mean, good guy. I don't want to talk bad about him. He is what he is at this point in his long career. But it wasn't, again, a huge test. I think this week in Carolina is going to be a stronger test. Cam's a different quarterback. He's not going to be. He's not a rhythm passer. He's not a timing passer. He's more of an improv. Make plays off of broken plays type of quarterback, and just use his physical gifts, and he's got many to beat you. Whether it's with throws a hell of a deep ball, he over the middle to Olsen scares me a little bit. The size of their receivers is pretty imposing. Kind of a thunder and lightning combo they have with McCaffrey and Stewart. McCaffrey catching passes out of the backfield is going to be see how that goes over. It's gonna be a test for the defense. It really is. Offensively, what the Bills did against the Jets, again going against the Jets' better unit. It's a lot of what we've seen. I will say Tyrod, as we know, he hit some passes over the middle. It was nice to see. There looked like there was some actual quarterbacking going on, like he was actually maybe looking around as opposed to fixating on one guy. And I know there was some of that going on, but just some of the plays to Clay were encouraging. Passes to McCoy was nice. McCoy doing McCoy things. Just shady being shady. The guy is a physical freak. I saw Thurman in his heyday, and I will have to say, Shady is the most physically gifted running back I've ever seen in a Bills uniform, and I've seen many good ones. And Shady is even against Thurman, I think he's the best. I really do. He is. Whew, man, the guy is just a he is a walking highlight reel, and the cuts that he makes, the things that he does. And Thurman did some of those things. Thurman was a little bit more of a tougher runner, slightly built similarly, but sort of different, I guess. Around the same size, both great receivers out of the backfield. Thurman was a hell of a receiver out of the backfield, great blocker, but physically, I just think Shady is just the movement is unreal. But there was a lot of hemming and hawing about the lack of productivity from the perimeter receiver, the players, wide receivers for the Bills, and it's like anything. Fans are always going to hem and haw about what they don't have, right? So last year they weren't getting passes to Clay over the middle. Clay wasn't getting a lot of targets. And Sammy, whether it was Sammy not getting a lot of targets, it's like, we won, but this guy didn't get his targets. He didn't catch enough passes. And I will say this. I always felt like, with Bills, and I'll go back to what I was talking about. Bills declined the option on Sammy, which is kind of an indicator. Everybody was like, well, let's see if this guy's healthy. And maybe we'll pay him. But it was also an indicator, maybe, this is not our guy. We're just going to move on. And they got a team to give them a player, pretty good player, and a second-round pick. And they were like, well, can't pass that up. But also the continuing questions about Sammy's health. 4+ minutes. If the guy was to leave a play in practice or go to the side something, it would have been what's wrong with him. Or if he wasn't getting enough targets in the passing game, let's just say he would have been on the roster and he wasn't getting enough plays in the passing game, targets from the offense under Dennison, it would have been a constant slew of questions. And I just don't think for a player that they have nothing vested in and weren't interested in paying, that they were going to want to take on that responsibility every waking moment in front of the Bills media to and have to be answerable for his lack of productivity or his inability to stay healthy. One or the other. They just didn't want to. They just didn't want to deal with it, and maybe they also didn't trust him to stay healthy too. So, but yeah, Zay Jones, Jordan Matthews, Andre Holmes. He's Tyrod's only been thrown to these guys for a brief period of time, if that. So there's gonna be growing, and I think there was a lot of taking what the defense give you stuff. Um, the Tolbert stretch plays can definitely that part of the playbook they can throw out the door. I was glad to read on Twitter. Dennison said he wasn't a fan of those either. That those are probably going to end. So I was like, okay, let's hopefully see that they come to an end because those were bad. Um, nice pass to DeMarco down near the goal line, almost went in for a touchdown. Was close. I think they ended up punching in the next play or so with Tolbert. I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Field goal miss was terrible. Of course, it was such a demoralizing opening drive. I'm sorry, I'm all over the place because it was just typical Bills, and it was just quintessential Bills, peak Bills, to just have the ball that long, go down the field, look good, and then throw a pick. Where Clay has it, it kind of goes, and it's right in Justin Burris's hands. I think the guy's related to former Bill Jeff Burris. Don't hold me that, but I think he might be his like nephew or something like that. Again, don't hold me to that. It was just like, oh, it's just that's so Bills. And to get the penalty too on Wood, where Wood, I didn't see him get touched. Like, he hit his own guy, and Wood, came to like tackle him because the guy looked like he was getting up to run again, and the ball came loose. I didn't. I thought that was a fumble, and Bills get the ball back, but apparently the refs didn't see it that way. That was neither here nor there once the game all came to an end. I'm just going back to some things that 10 points on the field. Missed field goal. There was yardage there in the first half. The score should have been, easily it should have been 31 to 31, 12, or 31. Let's just say the Jets go in and score that 2-point conversion. 31-14. It should have been, an easier win, and against better opposition. They're not going to be able to leave 10 points on the field. This team won't be. And it's also going to leave me interested to see how Tyrod does against better opposition, particularly guys that have better players in the second level. Linebackers are going to be able to move a lot better than the Jets linebackers were yesterday. Not Darren Lee, but the rest of the guys just were not good. They just were not good. And Shady was gashing them, and we're not used to seeing gashing the Jets like that. Even Tolbert early on was getting some good burn, and that's one area where the Bills, Ramon Humber, who's kind of been a guy that has just been a roster guy. He was flying around all over the place. Even Lorenzo looked lean, was flying around. Preston, who has stuck, one of the guys who has been able to stick, and looked lean. Here he's around like 10 or plus pounds lighter than he has been playing, and he was moving well. Obviously, I think going forward years from now, next season and beyond, they're going to need younger, fresher legs at linebacker. Given what McDermott had in Carolina, I mean that's a dream team trio at linebacker, but. And they're their next opponent, so we'll get to see a very good. It's going to be an interesting matchup next week. It really is, and there's so many ways my mind's going right now. And we talk hypothetical because the Bills' schedule is going to get a lot tougher, a lot sooner, and that's not hard given that they just play the Jets. But it's gonna get real quick for them. and we're gonna get to see who this team really is real fast, and that's a good thing. It's a good thing for us. That's a good thing for them and McDermott and Bean. It's a good thing that let's really see what we have. And all due respect to the Jets, I think in some respects it was almost like a glorified preseason game that counted. You were going to play your starters, but this team that we're playing against is pretty depleted. And depleted, I mean they're depleted at full strength. They've just started the season. They don't have a slew of guys on IR. I mean, unfortunately for them, Anunwa would have been their number one. He's on IR, so I'll say to that. And Austin Safarian Jenkins would probably be their number one tight end is serving a suspension. So okay, they're hurt that way, but still, even albeit as it may, there's some surprise element first game of the year. There's some, you catch teams up in some things they're not used to seeing you, especially they have a new offensive coordinator. Bills have pretty much new everything, especially more so defensively. Their style is completely different. So, just given the way this regime has operated, if the competition stiffens the way I think it will, and if Tyrod's play falters in any way, how quick do they make the switch? And I'm sorry to have this tenor after a 1-0 start, but let's be real. We've seen these guys they're not the waiting around kind. They're really not. And us Bills fans are tired of waiting around. And the way they're loaded for bear in draft picks next year. And let's talk about that for a quick second, if we may. How nice is it going to be on draft night, first 2 nights, to sit there and say, hey, and they might have 7. At current, they have 6. We're going to see, let's just say they end up cutting, Andre Holmes or, the Ryan Davis and whoever else they need to cut to get that, compensatory third. Let's say that's done, and can get 7 players, definite 6 in the top 100, and maybe 7th, just outside of the top 100. You could sit there on the first 2 nights of the draft and say you're going to say 7 new Bills, and then obviously anything could happen in terms of trades, moves up and stuff, because the ammunition is there. You don't have to rob Peter to pay Paul like the Bills have done for so long, where they're just chasing it and they're chasing it. And what they're really just chasing is a wild card. And the reason this draft is going to be so pivotal is because the Patriots are going to be a year older, specifically Brady. Who knows where the proverbial cliff is or when it is, but it could happen. It happens to them all. And I don't care about the Brady diet. I don't care about the aura, this unpenetrable aura. He's human. He's human. And eventually it's going to end. And the end has never been sooner, just from the calendar. Metaphysical age is a reality for every human being on the planet, and it's no different for him. So this draft is going to be interesting, and as it relates to what I was talking to, they're going to want to see Peterman play at some point. Let's be real about this. Look at the contract Tyrod was re-signed to. I don't know if we see games like Oakland where he has the good first quarter and all of a sudden, he just disappears for the half, or the one in Miami where no plays are being made and it's just nothing to be done, or like against Pittsburgh at home where it's just Cincinnati game they win it, but it's just completely and people will hearken to the Seattle game or other games, but I can think of many games where there was a lot of long stretches of time where nothing happened from the quarterback position. And let's be real, these guys aren't going to sit around and on their hands and just wait because that's what they feel like. Oh, this is our guy. This is not Rex. These guys aren't Rex Ryan, where they're not making promises to Tyrod Taylor that you'll always start, or while I'm here, or they're not, you know, up in the office, giving guys carte blanche around the building and the facility. They're not doing that. These people are different. They're different than what we're used to. And by week 5, week 6, if this team is, you know, let's just say they're 2-3, 2-4, you could see Peterman in there. I'm just saying. You know, let's see what happens though. It's still, you know, 15 games. Say they go down to Carolina and win, and they're 2-0 and coming back home against another pretty solid team, and in front of the Bills fans, it's definitely still not an easy place to play. I mean, Bills fans are worn thin. We're all worn thin, but you know, let's just play it out. Broncos are actually playing right now against the former Bills coaching brain trust, as we all probably are right now. So I think Broncos just got an interception off of Rivers, but yeah. All right, guys. Sorry for the disjointed video. It's been a while. I'm rusty. Yeah. It's not that I'm not excited for the season. I'm always excited for Bills football. I love, you know, if I didn't love the Bills, if we didn't love the Bills, and I'll never say they're more my team than they're more your team, because I think that has happened a lot nowadays with social media. There is this pecking order of Bills fan, and I've come to find it. I don't like it. Whether it's on Twitter, on Facebook, you have these groups and sects of Bills fans. They're like groups, and they're like, well, we're the Bills this or Bills this, and we somehow have some ascending higher opinion than you do because we are part of this. And it's just like, no, you don't. No, you don't. I've been wrong multiple times on these videos, and they're here in perpetuity to prove that I've been wrong, because I'm not going to delete them if what I say turns out to be totally bogus. I'm going to own it. I'm not going to, you know, come back, you know, after they trade so-and-so or release Jonathan Williams, and then I made a video talking how Doug Whaley left the Bills with this great hidden, you know, gem of a player, or this great gift of a dude, you know, this young cornerback, and you know, Kevon Seymour that they end up trading. This guy's ended up being released. This guy is a buffoon that they drafted, and you know, gets himself in trouble or something to that effect. Or this wide receiver has double hernia surgery and just never plays. It's like drafting just never made sense in a lot of ways for the Bills, and I hope it starts to make sense. And the last draft was different in so many ways, and I think it's gonna this draft is huge for the Bills, and it would be, I'd be remiss in saying none of us are not thinking about it. What is April not going to be like when we're all sitting here with all those picks? Like, this is going to shape the face of the Bills that me and you are going to watch for the next almost decade, because it's so important. But again, I'm talking about this, and there's 15 football games to play. So much is going to happen. The week 1 hot takes, we all know what they are. They're hot takes for a reason, right? Everybody's great when you win the first game, and everybody sucks when you lose the first game. But with 15 left, you know, it takes about mid-October, late October, and the separation really starts. It really starts, and when you're in from mid-October to let's just say mid-October to early November, the separation it's real. It's like you see who the the pretenders and the real players are. So, and we'll see where the Bills end up, guys, when that comes to fruition. I think they'll be a competitive team. I think they'll play hard. I don't think, as we all have come to surmise, they'll embarrass the fan base or the organization on the field with some of the Aaron Williams antics, like against the Patriots or some other things. Hopefully we won't see dildos on the field this year. That was to me. I don't know why I'm thinking about it. Probably because I had to listen to his voice just now. That moment embodied the Rex Ryan era more so than any moment of any play. Not the whole 10 men on the field thing. It was the dildo. The dildo on the field was the Rex Ryan era of Bills football. All right, guys, you have a good one. Take care. Thanks for sitting here for over a half an hour listening to my bullshit. So we'll see what happens this week. Probably going to see some roster moves tomorrow, or maybe the vested vet thing happens where now they don't have to guarantee these guys contracts for the rest of the season. Maybe a Gerald Hodges ends up back on the roster. Maybe something. One move I will criticize this regime for. Maybe it was a depth move. Maybe they just weren't sure how certain guys would adjust within the new culture or the scheme. Was the Vlad Dukas move. He wasn't active last week. I've never liked him. When he was with the Jets, I didn't like him. He's kind of bounced around the league, Bears, Minnesota. I know he was with Juan Castillo last year in Baltimore, but I just never thought he was good. And there's a lot of bad offensive lines out there. He's no great shakes, but I think he's a little bit better than some of the guys like the Giants have, for example. They were just putrid last night against Dallas. Ugh. So I don't know. Maybe they can move him. I don't know. Maybe they could release him. I don't know. He's just one guy that was just a head scratcher for me with this regime. But all right, Bills fans, I've talked way too much. It's late. You guys have a good one. Take care. Enjoy your week. It is nice to be 1-0. I'm sorry for all the hypothetical talk. I'm sorry, but not sorry, but it's because I think it's real with a new regime, a new organization. These guys operate completely different than what we've come to be used to. Especially with all the turnover, it was just these guys just are different. And I'm not saying whether it's for the better or for the worse. It's just a more, hey, or if you're not with it, you're not with it at all. If you're out, type of thing. And we've seen that with the moves they made. So you guys have a good one. Take care. But we'll keep all this in mind. I know I will, at least, and we'll see how this week plays out down in Carolina. See if they go get a win on the road, or they play tough and maybe they lose. But I'm just more interested to see how they play as opposed to wins and losses. I want to see the level of compete in this team for 4 quarters all season long, because there was a lot of give up in this team last year, the year before, and even in previous years there was some give up, and that has a bad taste in my mouth. So all right, guys, you have a good one. Take care, and go Bills always.